Welcome. You're listening to a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast on Mental Health News Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lorilee Binstock, host of a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast on Mental Health News Radio Network and anywhere you get your podcast. Well, welcome to season 7 of a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast. Today, I'm going to bring on Cali Binstock. She is Authentic Insider's art director. And so we are kind of just going to ease into the podcast. We will bring in our first guest next week, but kind of want to chat about like our progress and what's been going on with us, because both of us are on this healing journey. And so, Cali, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, well, I feel like if people have listened to our conversations, we literally have conversations just every day that I'm like, oh, that should go on the podcast. And so yeah, I know you're like, so what are we going to talk about today? I'm like, you know what? We could just figure it out. It'll be like just one of our regular phone calls. But, I was thinking there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on, especially over the summer, like transformational stuff. I know that you're on your healing journey. And so I like to kind of talk about that because I mean, everyone kind of knows where my healing journey is. I'm pretty far along where I'm just incorporating those tools that I have. But you've had some tremendous growth over the summer, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about that. So do you mind sharing?
Yes.
You're
I
like,
guess.
can you be more specific? But you know what's going on in your life.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think what it's hard for me to think in those like increments of like, oh, the summer. Oh, like when was that and when did I start doing these things? But at some point I weaned off of Zoloft, which was hard. Don't recommend it
Was it
without
hard?
yes. Don't recommend it without like a doctor telling you how to taper off and like how to
Yeah.
support and having support, um, emotional support, maybe a therapist, as much support as humanly possible,
Mm-hmm.
because I think I was on it so long that I was numb to the big, big, big feelings and just like the instant reaction feelings, like the not even triggers, just like I would be crying at a commercial, like
Oh, that's
just
me once a month.
yeah, but like in touch with my, emotional state. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to stop the numbing, and not that I was on like a
Mm.
huge dose or anything, but I wanted to, for that reason, like be aware of where I was emotionally, but then also be able to do and try microdosing,
Mm-hmm.
which with psilocybin, which has been also a journey.
So many
Because
journeys.
like it's wild, and I'll get to this, but doing an EMDR session with the microdose from the morning was very interesting and really cool. Um, so I do want to talk about that because it was neat.
Yes.
And I think you can't just like gulp down mushrooms and then expect to transform. You have to like really be intentional and have other aspects of your life committed to healing. So it's not just a pill that you can take that's like, okay, now I'm fixed. Everything's
Right.
great. You know, it's helpful. And I think how I've been describing it lately, which I found the right dose for me. I don't think I was doing the right dose for me before because I took some time off of it and I came back to it recently. And this dose has allowed me to pause, slow down, and be like it's giving me this extra space. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so helpful. It's so helpful. I can sort of breathe before I react. I can sort of like kind of be above it in a sense and have more compassion for myself. And that's also work I'm doing.
Yeah. You're able
Um,
to process in that time, in that space,
yeah,
which I feel like people, it's really hard to do that.
yeah, that didn't seem possible for so
Oh,
long. So, like, wow. And that's like one side of it, I guess. And then the other side has been deep work of EMDR. And
ooh,
that's been insanely like it. If you think about, I like look at my therapy journey with like cognitive behavioral, because I've been in therapy forever. And
yeah.
it's like I made, let's say this much progress, whatever, in years and years and years and years. And then EMDR comes on, like I made this much progress in, I guess if you compound it, days. Because
Wow.
it's a once a week thing. So
Yes.
it's like in those days, holy crap, I went from like to like all the way here. It's just wild how quickly it it like reframed things and made me feel like it's like I had this small glimmer of hope, and that shone a way bigger spotlight on it and made it seem like reality. Like
Yeah.
it brought me out of the dark so quickly
It was like your
with
emotions
certain
weren't tied.
thoughts.
Yes. Like your emotions weren't tied to these individual events, right? Like you were able to separate what actually happened and not
Yes.
necessarily have your emotions wrapped up into it.
And your identity. My
Mm,
identity no longer feels super wrapped up in the fact that I couldn't get an art teaching job when that was what I was trying to do.
hmm
And I got, like I've done it in different ways, but whatever. But when I was like out there trying to get the full-time thing, and that was like our prompt going in was like the negative thoughts I had. It's funny because you start with, it's not really funny, but you start with like the super negative thought pattern of like my prompt or trigger, or when I would go into these sessions and I would do butterfly taps with my therapist because it's virtual.
hmm
And I always thought EMDR is only this eye movement,
Right.
but we did this, and I'm closing my eyes and I'm grounded and going inward to an image of um, people around a table interviewing me. And I'm saying, I don't belong here. Nobody wants me. And that's the starting point. And you just see where your mind takes you. And it's small sessions. So you're doing this for, I don't know, maybe like 15, 20, 30 seconds. And then she'll pull me out. My therapist will pull me out and I'll say what came up. And then we focus on that for the next session. It takes you. And it took me so many places. Well, it took me first to my teenage self. It's like it
Mm.
took me right to the root of where these thoughts started,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
started to begin with. And I sat with myself as a teenager and I listened to her and hugged her and gave her so much love that she so desperately needed, and acceptance back then, like that I would never have given myself back then, you know?
Yeah.
And just the compassion for her has healed a lot.
hmm
But it's just so interesting where it goes. It's like I'm sitting in this interview and I'm fumbling and I'm spilling coffee, and people are looking at me with like these looks of like, and this is in my head. This is how I remember these days years ago. It's still affecting me. It's just wild. And then I don't know if I should go through this whole like where I ended up with it is crazy because like it ended, this is sessions later. It ended with me around that table, and the people there started turning into people that I knew, and they started saying, "We're so excited to have you work with us,
Wow.
and
Wow.
we want you here, and like you're going to be great for this." Because I started teaching again, and like this group asked me to come and wanted me there, and that's helpful too, of course. But like
Of course.
those people turned into people who or supportive and loving and accepting. And my belief in my initial negative thought of, I don't belong here, nobody wants me, turned into, well, maybe I didn't belong there and that just wasn't for me. And
Right.
I belong here, but I do have places I belong.
Yes.
And that belief grew and was like, I believe that, you know?
And now that is your belief system versus what it was like right before the EMDR.
Yeah.
I I love how you brought in so many aspects that kind of remind me. So for anyone who doesn't know what EMDR is, it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a type of trauma therapy. And I know that it definitely works with like event traumas, like traumas that you can remember a moment versus complex PTSD. So, neglect, neglect, and all these things that may have developed in your childhood based on your parents or caregivers. And I'm not, and I don't know if there's anything new that has come out since I've done it where complex PTSD can be worked through EMDR. Um, but when you were talking about it, I love how you brought up the mushrooms, you brought up internal like what made me feel what seemed to me was internal family systems therapy. And I think it all
Yeah.
kind of goes together, right? Like you're
Yeah.
kind of dropping into your subconscious, and I think the
Right.
mushrooms absolutely help you get there and really understand your behaviors and your thought process. Um,
Yeah.
and that's just so amazing. And you know, I've seen so much growth in you. And you barely touched when it came to EMDR. I think you kind of talked to me about that, but I think we had so many other
Yeah.
different issues going on at the same time that we
Yeah.
haven't got to dive into that. But that is
Right.
really amazing, that like you were able in a session kind of
Hmm.
take on that understanding, and then there's that integration part, which I think is similar to
Yes.
psychedelics. When you do psychedelics and you have
Right.
these memories and these flashbacks and these you know things that come
Yeah.
up, and then you have to go through an integration process where you process it. um
Yeah.
wow.
It's
And
funny though, because the part about, and figuring out if I want to get this, if I want to do this little job, it's teaching preschool to 2 year olds. And now I'm teaching a drawing class to teen girls. And I also have so many levels of support. I'm very privileged to be able to do this for myself. I have an ADHD coaching group that I'm a part of, and they had a whole summer of self trust. I did all the self trust course, and there's a decision making kind of like handout so you can like work through your, it's hard for me to make decisions, hard for a lot of people. So working
hmm
through like, do I want to do this really? And that was very helpful for this too. So those kind of like helped me say, okay, definitely want to do this. It feels really good to me. Um, and yeah, and it's funny because, and that's not even what I was going to say, but I was not like, I think the days I either was not doing the microdosing at the time of that EMDR, and then the last session I had just like a week ago, I was. And the difference was kind of crazy. And so I can tell you that story. It was just one session, and only two like tapping sessions within that therapy that like really cool. And I have notes here, so I can go through that. But it was
yeah.
different. It was different.
I love that
Um,
because I think I'm in part of an EMDR group on Facebook. I haven't really dove in, but I think someone brought up something about microdosing and EMDR, and I was like, oh, I want to read this post, but it was just like I was just kind of like scrolling until I had to go, and then I saw it. But yes, I'd like to learn
yeah,
more because I feel like this is a great option for people. I mean, yes, I
yeah,
understand that mushrooms aren't easily available to some people, but it could be
sure,
available to a lot.
yeah,
Um, but Can you, yeah, why don't we go into that? So
Yeah.
the one where you were in front of the group of all these
Yeah.
people, that
Hmm.
wasn't on
Mm-mm.
my, oh, okay. So then I want to know what happened when you were
Yeah,
on
this
sessions.
the difference, like I think with those sessions, it was super easy for me to access the feeling of not belonging, the feeling of not being wanted, the
That bad
feeling of
feel,
rejection of
bad
like,
feeling.
if I'm going to face, say, like a new job or a job interview, those feelings rush in right away. And it's very, and just like imagining them, I can be there. For this session, I could not, I did not think I could access these negative feelings because I was up above them with the
Mm-hmm.
microdose. I was sitting high above them. Not that I was high, I just felt light and I felt good. And I felt like, oh no, am I going to get anything out of this today?
Mm-hmm.
Because going into it, um, it ended up being about my inner critic. And I'm trying to remember exactly the prompt, but I was like, okay, like I sort of was like, all right, we'll try it. Like I'm not gonna, I was a little bit skeptical, so I was like, is this worth it? Because I can't feel these, like I don't believe what I'm telling you right now. I was saying things about like, oh, where did we go? Let me see. Sorry. Um,
So you couldn't act, so you could or you couldn't access the negative
I
feeling.
did not think I could. I guess I'll just skip the prompt. I'm not sure exactly. It probably will come to me. But I went into the session tapping, and my inner critic was like, if you could just get your shit together, blah, blah,
Mhm.
like spewing, fast talking, like, if you were just more organized, if you could just like, blah, 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 stick to a schedule, if you could just, blah, 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 like hammering me with like all this stuff of like, all the things like I'm
You're
critical
not.
about.
Yeah.
No, but like it, and it was very interesting because like the first thing that happened, I wrote down inner critic spewing various forms of get your shit together. And that's what came up first. In like a cartoon, I swallowed her.
Like Pac-Man?
Yeah, like my mouth was like, and it was like I just see it as like a moon shaped like shut up. Like I stopped her by swallowing her. I guess whatever, that's what my brain did. And then somehow she was like back outside again, like of me. It's not like I swallowed whatever. There was just like a whole metaphor, I guess. And I swallow her, and then next thing you know, we're sitting at my kitchen table together. And I was like, I see that you care so much. Like, I see what you're doing here. You're trying to make us better. And I appreciate that.
Mm.
And it was such a great example of the slowing down that the microdose gave me because I was like, I saw her in my face, like, bop, 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 really aggressively. And I was like, you know what? Pause,
Yeah.
just stop. And also, I'm not mad. I'm away from you. I'm appreciating you. I see what you're doing. You must really care about us. It was like, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Because they have a
And
role. That part has a very specific role.
yes.
And it may
And I,
feel bad, but it is
yes,
they're there for a reason.
right. And so I started reminding her, inner critic, all of the ways that we have been making progress, and I was like, you have to consider the things we are doing. It's just like
Mhm.
calmly explaining those things. I'm trying to see if I wrote anything. Just the ways I've been caring for myself to get regulated and getting organized and more like those kind of terms.
Mm-hmm.
And then this image came to me of me driving a bus. And I said, "You're welcome aboard, but I'm driving." And the driver on the bus says, "Move on back."
Yeah.
Like, you can get in the bus, but you got to sit in the back because every time you drive, we wreck and we spiral, we
Mm.
we burn, we crash and we burn. If you drive, it's not going to be good.
It sounds like it was a
So,
psychedelic, like a big psychedelic session, right? Like,
yeah, it was
I
2 sec. I mean, it's not 2 seconds, but it felt very like it came so quick.
wow.
It was very cool. And I said, you know what? Let's change your job description. So I actually have that here.
Oh,
Um,
what is the new job that you gave this part?
so to like show where it was and where I'd like it to be, I
Hmm.
wrote position inner critic, title, I wrote raving bitch, and then I crossed it out. So your old title, raving bitch, I'm gonna take that off and I'm gonna say gentle reminder. Like,
Reminder.
yeah, gentle reminder. And description used to be screaming, shaming, and blaming. And I crossed
Mhm.
those out. And the new description is gently holding up our agreed upon goals to remind us that we are capable of progressing toward them.
Yeah.
So you can stay, but I'm going to give you a different job, very IFS. You know, that's like
Yes.
the thing you do in IFS, right? You give these parts a new, like, I'm not going to kick
New
you out.
role.
Yeah, you stay here. You're valuable, and I see that you care, but let's change your role, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's really
yeah.
powerful. And I know this sounds so silly. And excuse me, I know some people are so sick of Taylor Swift because there's so much Taylor Swift out there. But it just reminded me of her music video for Anti-Hero, where she's like the meek version of herself. Um, and then there's this big, giant version of herself that kind of comes in and makes her feel really shitty. And it's like, this is everything that's wrong with you. And then she's
Yeah.
like, the meek one, like the meek version of hers taking notes, like, okay, no one likes me, this and whatever. And then
Yeah.
and then so she starts like letting this big version of her take over, and then she's drinking, she's getting sick and whatever, and she's partying. And then at the end, she comes together with that part and another part that I don't even know
Okay.
if I saw her, and then they're just kind of enjoying wine together. Like, we can
Hmm.
all be here. We
Right.
just need you need to not be so big. You know, you need
Right.
to.
Like, get in the back of the bus.
Right,
You don't
exactly.
need to like backseat drive either. Like, just
Exactly.
keep moving, you know?
Agreed. And I think that's super powerful because, I talk about, I've talked about this before. For me, it was my angry part. And my angry part, if for people joining in, like I was abused, sexually abused as a child by my biological father. And my angry part came out because it protected me from him. When I lost my shit, that's when everything really stopped. And so
Okay.
whenever I get that feeling of helplessness of where I'm trying, like I get this scared, helpless feeling, my angry
Yeah.
part just comes in and just starts attacking everybody. And I'm like, there was a point where I was kind of a crazy person. But once I understood that, and it was through IFS
Hmm.
therapy in particular, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that part has a role. My angry part is not a
Yes.
bad part.
No.
Just has to it we just need to give it a new role. And
Right.
it was my, try to keep me in check. Like,
Yeah.
like, don't let people just,
Protective.
yes, it's my protective part, but it needed
Yeah.
to back off when it
Mhm.
needed to. Like,
Yeah.
and that helped. And I'm not
Yeah.
nearly as angry. I mean, I have my moments, but
We all do.
but I have that
Hmm.
space now where I can
Yeah.
process and realize, like, that's not what. But then if someone's like egging me on and egging, then it
Of
might come
course.
out, and it is very embarrassing because it's happened to, it's like I think I've said before, road rage is a big part of my life. Like, I would have
Hmm.
road rage, and that was where my angry part would come out. And
Yeah.
sometimes it'd be like, oh, there's Olivia's friend's parents driving, like my daughter's friend's parents, and she's like,
Yeah.
you are so humiliating. And I'm like, I am embarrassed myself. So that's
Hmm.
calmed down significantly, thank
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done with these parts because these parts did serve us at one point.
Right. Like they were doing a fantastic job at some point, and then now you have to kind of remind them, like, hey, I got this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
better if
they're
my,
growing.
self, if you're talking about IFS, and this is all got to plug like Richard Schwartz's book, No Bad Parts, right? Because
Mhm.
it's
There
like,
are no bad parts.
there are no bad parts. And that's why it's called, the entire book is called that, because having, that's such a big part of IFS, is like having an appreciation and understanding for why
Mm-hmm.
these parts got into the roles that they're in, and appreciating that. Like, thank you for keeping me safe, but you know what? I got this now. I'm going to drive the bus,
I'm gonna drive the bus.
I'm going to be the driver. Because I see what happens to me, at least when I let that part drive, and make, yeah, it's just like a louder voice, that inner critic, and I can get into severely depressed states where I'm crying, and it goes down, down, down if I don't check
Have you
that voice.
experienced it where it starts to take over? It's like, I want to take the wheel right now. Have you had that
Yes.
moment where you're like, okay, and then you've actually been able to say, nope, not today. Like, thank you, but no
Yeah.
thank you. Has that happened yet? Have you exercised or has it been challenged?
Yeah, like um it doesn't, I don't feel like there's this like really enormous shift that I could talk about with this one particular moment, but I feel like you know, that's such a part that just comes up. And it's just like
Hmm.
always kind of like in the background, and
Yeah.
I have to be like, we're not doing this. We're not doing this today.
That's what I
You
do with
know,
my
like,
kids. Shh. Like,
yeah,
shh part.
we're not doing it. Like it's like a reparenting kind of, it's like, hey, I got this. Like,
I got
you need,
this.
yeah, all done. Like, we're all done with that. Like, sometimes you have to just like shut it down. And that's like
Mm.
where the mushrooms gave me the pause and give me the pause. I did not take them this morning because it's a 4 days on, 3 days off
Right.
protocol, at least for
Hmm.
me. So I don't know if that's universal. So I'm not going to say that it is. But on those days, it's like I'm more and more able to access that higher self, I would
Hmm.
say, and kind of almost have a sense of humor about the darker things.
Hmm.
It just lightens everything a bit, and it's like, oh, like, meh, get out of here. So it's a little easier on those days. Um, and but that practice translates to every single day, like it's still worth it. It's still worth, to me,
Yeah.
going through the microdosing protocol. And there's so much involved in the protocol, at least with the person that I do it under, I guess. And
Hmm.
I'm trying. It's a lot. Like, the thing I mostly do is I try to remember to put on, like, beautiful music. Usually like the tones, like the frequencies. I don't know how to say them. The SOL, sulfa, blah, 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 blah,
Hmm.
tones, sulfa, geo,
Yeah, I don't know the actual words for them, but I do know that there are frequencies in music that
frequencies.
tap in to
Yes.
to yeah.
And meditating with the microdose is so much easier. I just feel like I go straight into that good feeling place where it's much more accessible. So that helps a lot.
I do wanna remind people because I feel like people are like, oh, if you take mushrooms, you're like tripping out. And
Mm,
obviously there are people out there who've done it and they're like, they know that. But then I feel like there are people who are like so against, they are just
mhm,
not knowledgeable or educated on mushrooms or any type of psychedelics and
mhm.
dosing and all of that stuff. And
Right.
you don't have to take a heroic dose. Like there are people when you work with a therapist, you're likely taking a high to large dose, which is like what 3.5 to like 5 um milligrams or grams of mushrooms. And so
Mm,
um but when you're talking about a microdose, you're really talking about what, zero point 0.1, 0.2,
mhm. Yeah.
0.1,
Right.
0.125.
Like I can go to work. I can take care of my family. I can, everything is, it's like barely noticeable.
Yes.
It's
Like
not,
you're
it's
like your mood is elevated. You feel
yeah,
like you can handle things that you couldn't
better,
if you were
better.
exhausted.
I'm
Exactly.
better with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that a lot of people need to know because,
Yes. Yeah.
people we're not just dosing ourselves during the day and we're just tripping out
Right.
and acting
Right.
all.
Yes.
Um but I do, and I also, going back to the tapering off the Zoloft, I also do want to
Hmm.
say, like, some people need to be on the Zoloft. It needs
Oh,
some
totally.
they need to put the
Yep.
fires out. That for me, that was what needed to be done in order to
Yes.
start my healing journey because fires
Yes.
needed to be put out. And I think that's what it did. But
Yeah.
it did numb me. It like kept me at an even
Hmm.
keel, like place where I
Right.
wasn't feeling super excited about things and I wasn't
Right.
feeling super depressed, which, like you were saying, you wanted to know
Yes.
where you were emotionally, where you wanted to
Right.
keep that in check.
And
Yeah.
this was, and that's why I said earlier, this is like after I have tons of support in place and some tools from therapy in my tool belt to know how to regulate, but also how to recognize when I need to start doing some self care in order not to, you know, go down into the depths.
Yeah.
So recognizing, like, you know, yeah, just
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that point of like that knowing yourself well enough to recognize when it might be around the corner,
Hmm.
when like a meltdown, a spiral, a depressive episode, I don't know what you want to call it, but knowing that you're headed that way is helpful so that you can start being gentle with yourself
Hmm.
and bringing yourself back to a place that can be regulated and ask for the support you need and ask for that extra therapy session, call someone you love, call Lori, no, I would call Lori Lee.
Just shoot me an email.
Shoot
Yes.
me.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like call someone you trust and who's supportive of you. Oh, I think support is just like huge.
So important. So
Yeah,
important.
especially if you were at the place where you were like, I'm thinking about tapering off of this, and it definitely is a big decision. And it was so helpful for me for years and years. So it's no shame on anyone who uses it or needs it. It's
Yeah.
definitely, it's got its place for sure.
Yeah, and if you do want to taper off, if you're thinking about it, you definitely need to seek guidance from
Yeah.
your prescribing therapist or
Yes.
psychiatrist. Do not just stop. I
No,
also had
that
to
is the
wean off.
worst.
That is the worst. I
Oh,
got so sick. I was so excited to start
mhm.
psychedelics, and I knew that I needed to wean off of it, so I went like the fastest route possible,
Oh,
and I was
not
sick.
so fun.
I was really
Oh,
sick.
wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was, so I highly recommend not just doing it on your
Mm,
own. I mean, my
right.
psychiatrist was like, whoa, 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 I think this is a little
Hmm.
too fast. And I was like, oh, I
Hmm.
guess I should have done a little better job listening. I was like, but I
Hmm.
really wanted to I wanted to wean off of it because there was that point where I was like, I need to feel, plus my hair was falling out. So it was like, oh, this is really a
Ah,
problem. Um,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
but I mean, don't feel ashamed to tell your therapist. I don't know.
Hmm.
Did you feel that shame telling your psychiatrist like I'm going to wean, or did you tell them?
Yes.
Oh, you
Oh
did.
yeah. It
Okay.
was like
Yeah.
yeah, like how do I do this? Like
Hmm.
tell me like the ways, tell me the ways. And she explained to go about it like this is sort of standard, but you can go way slower and you can always stay on the dose that you're on for longer. You don't have to go 2 weeks this dose, 2 weeks down a lower dose, 2 weeks lower, 2 weeks. You could stay on a lower dose, like one of those wherever you land, like you can plateau for a while and then go down. So like there's so many different ways of doing it. So it's definitely like individualized and you've got to like have someone on your team, helping
Yeah.
you that really knows. And so yeah.
Yeah.
Uh I'm trying to remember. I was gonna say something else, but I can't remember.
Oh, I'm sorry. I might have
No, no,
interrupted.
no, it's not you. No, no, no. Um so yeah, like I feel much better. Oh, I was gonna say I accidentally stopped taking it when I had COVID.
Oh.
I was like
Were you
dead
weaning
for
it
a
this time?
week.
Were you weaning it?
No,
Oh,
I did
okay.
not mean for this to happen. This was a total
Oh.
accident. Like I just was so sick. This was like early COVID days. I
Mm.
was so sick that like I just forgot to do anything because all I was doing was sleeping. And
Mm-hmm.
then I like wake up out of the COVID coma and I was like, it was terrible.
Mm.
I was so depressed and it scared me off of weaning off of it for a while, but my psychiatrist was like, "No, that's not what it is. Like that was not like
You
that's
weren't
not what it is
supposed to
to come
do
off
that.
right. Like that's like falling off a cliff. And when you
Mm.
taper, you put a step here and you put another step. You know what I mean? You're
Like little
gradually
switchbacks.
yeah, and it's not like, oh, I'm falling off the cliff and like crashing and burning. It's
No,
like
no,
a
no.
little bit at a time. It's much better. So yeah, whoops. I
Yeah.
That was not fun. It's not fun at all. So don't
Well,
do that.
yes, yeah. So, obviously consult with your doctor, your physician, your therapist.
Exactly.
Um, but I do find that the combination I didn't do the EMDR with psychedelics just because I was in treatment when I did the EMDR and
Okay.
so that was a separate thing, but I can see that connection where that would just
Hmm.
be so much more enlightening. So definitely consult with your physician and therapist. And I think we'll wrap it up. I feel like you and I can literally talk forever, which we do so
Totally.
much. Um, but
Yeah.
I will wrap this up and say that, this is the start of a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast for season 7, and I'm really excited. Next week, our guest is going to be Amanda Carrasco. She said I have to roll my R, so Carrasco
Nice.
is her name, and she is a survivor of a homicide that took her sister, a person who she called her sister, who basically took her in, basically adopted her. And it was the murder of her and her sons. So this woman, she comes on, she talks about what that was like in restorative justice and how that kind of helped her get through the process. And it's just an incredible story. So I absolutely
Wow.
recommend tuning in next week. And Kelly and I are going to be doing some of these sessions, and since it's the beginning, we still have people coming on, maybe we'll like break down some of the things that I learned, you learned,
Hmm.
Amanda Carrasco also um, wrote a piece in Authentic Insider magazines. You curate the beautiful pages of Authentic Insider.
I didn't write it. I
No,
designed around it.
you designed around it.
Yeah.
You made the words visually beautiful,
Aw, thank you.
and powerful. And so, that I'm grateful for. This is like a team effort of mental health. We like check each other with our mental health, and then we create
Hmm.
this art, um,
Yeah.
audio, video,
Yep.
visual. I really love what I have with you. And so this is super
Thank
special to me.
you. It's
Um,
so special to me too. I told myself before that I wasn't going to make you cry, so that's why I'm not like saying all the words. But
no,
you know, I love you and appreciate you
I
so
love
much.
you.
Yeah.
That's why this is why it works. You can go to a Trauma Survivor Thrivers podcast. That's wrong. I'm sorry. It's actually traumasurvivorthriver.com. I'll go ahead and put that in the show notes, and I'll also have that on the screen, traumasurvivorthriver.com. And you can find past episodes of this podcast, and you can find the most recent issue of Authentic Insider magazine and past issues as well. So until next time, next week, please join us when I have Amanda Carrasco joining us. She is also the author of Being the Brave One. So thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. I'll see you all next week. Take care.